let's talk about the quarter that Apple reported last night. I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about here. What jumped out at you the most? Let me start with you.
So there's a lot of things. I think what stuck out to me is that Apple is continuing to grow their base of users. I think that's a statistic that everybody should keep track of. We know that...
So base of users across all products?
Across all products, but I think most importantly just growing their iPhone base of customers, getting not just selling iPhones to existing customers, but to new users as well. And I think that is pointed out very clearly in the Android switching, data points that have come out. In fact, our data came from Q4, that in China, for example, 26% of people who bought an iPhone in China that quarter switched from an Android device, and globally that same number was 16%. And so what you're showing, which is an interesting dynamic that I'm not sure many predicted, is that Apple is actually seeing some growth, taking share from Android. Again, not giant share, but enough share that that's adding to their user base. And so by that number alone, we're watching Apple's user base grow, their absolute customer base grow, which is good because, we know that from a range of statistics, it's a very sticky ecosystem. Once you come in, you don't leave. So that base is important.
And you can certainly see that from the iPhone sales, 2 quarters of better than 30% year-over-year growth, and China. What about you? What was the big takeaway?
Absolutely. So they've already crossed 1 billion iOS devices sold. Actually, we're over 1.1 billion now. That's 1 billion devices sold. Let me, let that sink in. There was a time when Apple was happy with 1 million max a quarter.
Right.
So we're at that level, orders of magnitude higher. Obviously, China's a big story. Tim Cook said 2 quarters ago that he's been studying China for 30 years. We're seeing that paying off now in a huge way. They're growing the fastest, I think, in China, and actually will probably overtake.
The design of the 6 Plus in particular, the design led to one of the greatest business successes. I mean, you can look at what the business was doing a year ago. It was seeing, 4% year-over-year growth. Now, and it was one of the biggest businesses ever in the history of mankind, and now it's 30% larger a year later because of this design choice they made about the 6 Plus.
Right, and
understanding China.
And sort of that was somewhat predictable. They would go to a larger screen size, and China is a very good market for that product. But this has been a long time in the making. This is what I'm going to stick on here, because we're looking at some spectacular growth, but we're also seeing this happening after years and years of groundwork, years and years of preparation. And so in many ways, things haven't changed that much.
Because we don't have a ton of time. There's a million things we can talk about, but you walked up here and you were holding your iPad and said, is that the last iPad? You said, yes, it's the latest one. I said, no, is it the last one? 27% year-over-year decline in iPad sales, and that's after a bad quarter a year ago. Is the iPad business withering away here?
Well, firstly, as management already stated, they are being cannibalized by the low, by the iPhone as a low-end disruption, and also from the top with the Max getting thinner and slimmer and faster, and more portable. And so what we're seeing is that it's kind of squeezed in the middle. On the other hand, what they could still do is expand the product into a 12-inch category and sort of take on more of the Mac market.
Horace Dediu, Ben Bajarin, thank you very much. Real interesting quarter from Apple as always, but I think an important one.